All right. Plant enthusiasts, anyone out there ever dreamed of a career surrounded by lush greenery? Well, buckle up because today's deep dive is taking us straight into the heart of the botanical world.
Sounds exciting.
We're going to dig deep into what it really means to be a botanist, and our trusty guide, RoleCatcher, has provided some amazing insights to help us along the way.
It's a field that's often way more diverse and dynamic than people realize. We're not just talking about like tending gardens here.
Okay, I'm already intrigued, so maybe we should start with the basics. What exactly is a botanist, besides someone who just really, really likes plants, I mean?
Think of a botanist as the guardians, investigators, and even, you could say, the architects of the plant kingdom. They dedicate themselves to the scientific study, the careful maintenance, and the innovative development of all things green.
So there's a whole scientific side to it. I have to admit, when I hear botanist, I picture those beautiful botanical gardens, not necessarily a lab with test tubes and experiments.
You're right. It's not just about keeping your houseplants happy. A botanist's day can be incredibly diverse. They might be elbow deep in the soil at a botanical garden, making sure some rare orchid thrives. Or picture this: trekking through the Amazon rainforest, meticulously documenting the incredible diversity of plant life.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. Rainforest expeditions, that's a dream job. But seriously, what kind of scientific work are they actually doing out there in the field?
It's like piecing together a puzzle, but with plants. They might be researching how certain plants have adapted to thrive in extreme environments, like, say, those harsh conditions you find in deserts or way up high in the mountains. And that research, it could hold the key to developing things like drought-resistant crops or understanding how climate change impacts plant life, really important stuff.
Wow, I never even thought about it that way. It's like they're not just studying plants, they're uncovering nature's secrets.
Absolutely. And speaking of secrets, did you know there was a recent discovery of a new plant species up in the Himalayas? And get this, it contains a compound with incredible medicinal properties. Scientists believe it could lead to major breakthroughs in treating certain types of cancer.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's amazing. Okay, you've definitely sold me on the cool factor of botany. So we've got the adventurous field work, the groundbreaking discoveries. But what about those who are passionate about conservation? Where do they fit into all of this?
botanists play a vital role in conservation efforts around the world. They're working tirelessly to protect endangered plant species, restore ecosystems that have been damaged. They might even be analyzing satellite imagery to track deforestation patterns and understand how it all impacts plant biodiversity.
Wow, so they're using cutting-edge technology to actually protect the planet. Okay, I'm definitely seeing a pattern here. Botany is way more than just a love for plants. These are real-world problem solvers we're talking about.
Precisely. And the work they do, whether it's out in the field or in the lab, is crucial to understanding and addressing some of the biggest challenges facing our planet today.
It's mind-blowing when you think about the impact botanists actually have on the world.
It really is, yeah.
Okay, so we've established this field is full of adventure, making a real difference, actual discoveries. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty for a second.
Okay.
What does it actually take to be a botanist? Besides, really loving plants, of course.
It's a great question. Passion is definitely up there, a key ingredient.
Right.
But like any profession, you need a certain set of skills and knowledge, right? And RoleCatcher, they break it down into two main categories for us: hard skills and soft skills.
Okay, so let's start with the hard skills then. What kind of scientific foundation are we talking about here?
So, first and foremost, solid grounding in biology. This is essential. Think of it as the language of life itself. You need to understand how organisms, how they function, how they interact, how they evolve. And plants, they've got their own fascinating stories to tell on that front, let me tell you.
That's so true. It makes sense that you'd need a good understanding of all living things, not just plants.
Right.
But what about plant-specific knowledge? What do you need to know there?
So that's where plant taxonomy comes in. It's
Yeah.
basically the science of classifying plants. So you're organizing them based on their characteristics, their evolutionary relationships, all that. It might sound a little dry at first,
Yeah,
but it's actually fascinating stuff.
I bet. I can see how that would be super useful, like if you're out in the field trying to identify a new species or figure out how different plants are related.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's ecology, which is all about how organisms interact with their environment, right? And that means both the living and the non-living. So it helps you grasp that bigger picture, how plants fit into ecosystems, how they're impacted by climate change, pollution, human activity, the whole shebang.
It's like you have to be a detective, observing, analyzing, really understanding all those complex relationships.
Yeah.
It sounds super challenging, but also incredibly rewarding.
Oh, for sure. And because research is such a big part of botany, strong analytical skills are a must-have.
Yeah.
Botanists are constantly collecting data, interpreting it, testing hypotheses, drawing conclusions, the whole 9 yards.
So it's not just about loving plants. You need a pretty sharp mind, too. And I imagine with all this data, technology probably plays a big role as well.
Absolutely. Technology is completely changing the game for botanists, both out in the field and in the lab. They're using advanced software to analyze these massive data sets, map plant distributions, even create 3D models of plants to study their growth patterns up close. It's really incredible.
Wow, that's wild. It's like having a whole new set of tools to unlock the secrets of the plant world.
Exactly. And speaking of tools, let's switch gears for a moment and talk about the soft skills. Because, science, it's rarely a solitary pursuit.
That's a really good point. So we're talking communication, teamwork, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Botanists often collaborate with other researchers, write
Oh,
those scientific papers, present findings at conferences, and even, communicate their work to us, the public.
right.
So being able to get those complex ideas across in a way that's clear and engaging, that's essential.
It's like being a translator, in a way, between the plant world and the rest of us. You need to be able to share your passion and your knowledge in a way that everyone can connect
I like that analogy.
with.
And it's not just communication either. Critical thinking, problem solving, those are both key too.
Hmm.
Whether you're designing an experiment, troubleshooting something in the lab, or finding a creative solution to a conservation challenge, botanists, they need to be able to think on their feet and adapt to the unexpected.
So you need a good balance then of that scientific rigor, but also that creative spark. It's like being a scientist and an explorer all rolled into one.
That's a great way to put it. And let's not forget attention to detail. Botany often involves working with these really intricate structures, noticing tiny differences between species, meticulously recording observations. That meticulousness is key.
Right, it's that keen eye for detail, the ability to spot those subtle things that others might miss. That's often what leads to those big, groundbreaking discoveries, isn't it?
Precisely. And those discoveries, they often come when you least expect them. So a sense of curiosity, a willingness to embrace the unknown, those are essential qualities for any aspiring botanist.
So we've covered the skills, the science, the adventure of it all. It's pretty inspiring stuff. But let's talk career paths for a minute. Say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, this is it, I want to be a botanist. Where do they even begin?
It's a common question. And resources like RoleCatcher, they can be super helpful, like a roadmap. They often highlight these typical career stages, starting with entry-level positions.
Okay, so let's say you're fresh out of university, you're bursting with knowledge, ready to jump in. What does that first step usually look like?
So picture this. You're assisting those more seasoned botanists, maybe at a research institute, a botanical garden, somewhere like that. You might be helping with the plant care, collecting data for projects that are already underway, maybe even getting your hands dirty in the lab, preparing samples.
Like a botanical apprenticeship, you're learning from the experts. That's got to be amazing.
Exactly. And as you start to gain that experience, build your confidence, you might move into more of a junior botanist role. That means more responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you're managing plant collections now, doing your own independent research studies, maybe even presenting your findings at conferences.
Okay, so you're really starting to make a name for yourself at that point. What's next on this botanical journey?
Well, from there, the path can really branch out in so many different directions. Some people, they specialize in a particular area that really speaks to them, like plant genetics, plant pathology, or even ethnobotany. That's the study of how different cultures use plants. Super interesting stuff.
Ethnobotany.
Yeah.
Sounds fascinating. It's like this bridge between science and culture.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then others, they might be drawn more towards conservation, working to protect endangered species or restore ecosystems that have been damaged. Some might even combine their love for plants with totally different fields, like education or science communication. There are no limits, really.
So many options. It's not just this one-size-fits-all career path, which makes it even more exciting.
For sure. And as you progress, you might find yourself leading research projects, mentoring new botanists who are just starting out, maybe even influencing policy decisions related to plants, conservation, sustainability, all of that.
Wow, the possibilities really are endless. But let's be real for a second. It sounds like it could be a pretty competitive field. Any advice for aspiring botanists on how to, stand out?
Yeah, it's true. It can be competitive, but passion and dedication, those go a long way. One thing I always recommend is to seek out those hands-on experiences beyond just the classroom, Volunteer at a botanical garden, intern at a research lab, see if you can join a fieldwork expedition. Those experiences are invaluable.
Yeah, learning by doing. It just makes sense. What about networking? Is that important in the botany world?
Hugely. Attending conferences, joining professional organizations like the Botanical Society of America, connecting with other botanists online. It's all about building those relationships, and
Right.
just staying plugged into what's happening in the field.
Like building your own little botanical community. I love it. What about continuing education? Are there specific certifications or advanced degrees that are really valuable in this field?
Definitely. Continuous learning, it's so key in any science field, but especially botany. A master's or doctorate, that can open doors to more research-focused roles.
Mm.
And then there are certifications like certified professional horticulturist, certified arborist. Those show you have specialized knowledge in certain areas.
It's like leveling up your botany skills.
Exactly. And I think beyond any formal qualification, it's about cultivating that curiosity. Read everything you can get your hands on, go to workshops, never stop asking questions. The more you learn about plants, the more you realize how much more there is to discover.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
This whole deep dive has been such an incredible journey. As we wrap things up here, is there a final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
If you feel that pull towards the world of plants, that sense of wonder, that desire to understand them, don't ignore it. Dive in, explore, see where it takes you. You might just be surprised by what you find out about the plant world and yourself.
That's beautiful. And for all our listeners, remember those resources like RoleCatcher. They're there to guide you every step of the way. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the world of botany. Until next time, happy exploring, everyone.